What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Mewzings Podcast studio. I am super excited to be joined today by writer Warrick Walker. How you doing today, Warrick?
I'm doing good, James. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, man. Appreciate you carving some time out of your day to spend a little bit of the evening with me here.
Definitely.
We're both pounding back our energy drinks. Pre-workout, and you've
Yeah.
got the my favorite flavor, a Monster,
Oh,
though,
dude, it's easily the best.
right?
Unsponsored. I'm working on it, but we'll get there.
Let's get us both sponsored, man. Don't leave me hanging. You get them to bring me on board too. You see, my boy, we showed it on the stream, so
Definitely.
well, I believe we were connected. You are one of many connections that I have made by the awesome Clayton Rosman.
Yeah. Clayton is a really cool dude. I ended up reading his story on it came out on a Wednesday,
Okay.
and I really digged it, and I just decided to reach out to him through Instagram,
Yeah.
and we started talking. I had a couple of self-published comics at that point, shared the stuff I had been working on, and ever since then we've been, talking on a regular basis.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, he's just a great dude, and he's spreading the love. He's like right away, he's like, "Hey, you should reach out to these guys," and he gave me a list, and I pretty much had all of you on. I think there's like one more left that I reached out to that we're getting scheduled, but I'm collecting them all of Clayton's friends. I'm gonna have you guys all on here
Yeah,
by
I
the time.
appreciate it, Clay.
Yeah, by the time the year is done, they will all have been on here. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you got into writing, man. Like, has this been something that was a desire burning within you for a long time to get that creative outlet and put
Uh,
pen to page and make some comics?
uh, Funny enough, I didn't start really writing until about, it was 4 or 5 years ago. Pretty late in the game to compare to some of the people that are, my peers in my group.
Yeah,
Uh, I I've always loved storytelling though. So that's the thing. I I never saw myself as a writer. It was more I loved making my friends laugh. I loved telling stories or creating funny situations and basically just, I'm sure you do this with your friends, but you'll start having this dialogue and this back and forth where you're creating this it's almost like a skit
for
and you're
sure.
both just laughing more and more about the ridiculousness of it. And that's something I've always really loved doing. And funny enough, uh, I'm a sculptor. That's like the medium that originally as an artist that I started diving into, specifically toys. I really love vinyl toys, collecting like Sufabi and stuff like that. And by proxy, you end up making a lot of friends that are artists that are
Right.
around you. And I have this friend named Eric. He goes by Dirty Old Roshi on Instagram, an amazing artist. He does these insane murals. He happened to be friends with the first person I ever made a comic book with, Erwin Papa. And with Erwin, I've done Angriest Warrior and another series called Bile. And basically, I met Erwin at a hangout and we started doing what I just said. We slowly started cracking jokes with each other, becoming more and more friends. And he had been working on a series called The Angriest Warrior, which was a parody of Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, yeah.
And it got to the point where every time we met up, we'd go to the bar or something, and it's like, "Oh, dude, you should have him do this next, or you should have him do that." And then one day, Erwin just looked at me and he was like, "How about you write an issue?" And I was like, "Whoa!" Like, I've loved comics for a long time, but because I didn't draw, it was almost like there was this weird barrier where I didn't realize that I could still contribute to that community and I still could make comics, but not as, the artist,
Yeah,
as the writer. And so we agreed, let's do a short 16-page story. Let's see, let's figure this out because I had never written a comic book at that point. So I didn't really know how difficult it was going to be. Ended up being a lot more work than I originally thought it was going to
for
be.
sure.
But but at the same time, I fell absolutely in love with it, and I've been chasing that ever since. So
Now, did you kind of, so you said you were new to it, first comic that you'd ever been writing.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you didn't really know maybe how to format things for the artist and all. Was Erwin kind of able to walk you through a little bit of that?
So funny story, I thought I was gonna help him out because when I wrote the story, he asked if I could do the panel layouts too,
Oh,
to, like,
okay.
help him, better visualize, like, the pacing and how I'm telling the story, which is the only way I write now. I always do the layouts, and I'm very open for artists to change the layouts, but I do the layouts because it lets me know that all the stuff I want on that page actually fits on that page.
Exactly.
But, besides that, I I'm a little slow, so I just assumed all paper can just be resized, and I had no idea that the 11 by 17 was usually the page size by choice because you're able to shrink it down
Yep.
and it still holds a lot of the detail on, the US standard size comic books, which I had no idea. So I laid out this entire comic, did all these layouts for him, and I gave him the paper, and he realized, and he was like, "Oh, I can't use any of this."
Oh
And
man.
I felt awful. I
Yeah, but
felt
how are you to know,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and that was a big learning curve, and, I definitely think, since then, I'm a lot more aware that, like, I can't just do things. There is more methodical, like, let's do some research and let's see how everybody else is doing this. Let's make sure this is gonna meet the standard that everybody expects it to."
Yeah.
So
Now, had you been kind of a fan of comic books prior to that? Were you reading comics as a kid or as an adult? Like, did you ever think like it was something you could do until you had that conversation with him? Had you thought about it, or was this strictly just something that kind of happened in the moment and now here we are?
So, when I was a kid growing up, I really liked manga. So, like, Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball was huge,
Right.
and, I remember going to the local grocery store and begging my mom to buy me those big, Shonen Jump magazines and stuff like that. So, definitely, manga was a bigger influence when I was a kid, but as I
Okay.
got older into high school, there was a comic book shop that was relatively close to the house I was living in, and my friends were really into comics, and I started going to the shop with them. And in all honesty, the hero stuff didn't really capture me, except for obviously like Spider-Man and Batman, like the really big ones.
Yeah.
But the majority of the superhero stuff didn't really pull me in. It wasn't until I stumbled upon like Dark Horse, Vertigo, Image, where I started them seeing them do like a little more weird indie artsy stuff
Yes.
that I really was like, I this is what I love. And specifically it was Hellboy. Hellboy is what made me go like American comics like rule. Like we need to
Yeah.
like keep making comic books like this.
Yeah,
So
Mignola, man, he really kind of I think for a lot of people he brought that to their attention and like, hey, this is a little bit of a different take and such a unique style too. Like I as an artist, I'm always just amazed at how much he can leave out but it makes the art look better, right? Like he literally uses what you would think are simplified figures and shadows and things, but that stuff is so hard to do. I can
yeah.
tell you that's really hard to do.
I obviously like I've tried drawing, and of course I look at Hellboy and I go like, oh, I could do that, but
Yeah,
that's the illusion of how good he is. It looks
exactly.
so easy that you think you could do it, but when you sit down and try to do it, you realize like
Yeah.
you're not even close.
No,
So
no, it's so hard to when you become more accomplished in art, like, and then a lot of times if you're like, I consider myself almost like a detail freak. Like I'm wanting to go in there and draw every hair, everything, and all the line work and the rendering. But then you realize, like, yes, that's cool, but also being able to not do all of that and still have the
mhm,
image be incredibly powerful. Like to me, in some regards, that's even cooler because it's way harder to leave stuff out and still convey that motion of the figure, the mood of the scene, and all of that. Um, Erwin's good at that stuff
oh, he's
for
he's a
sure.
monster. He's a monster with a ink pen for sure.
So, in working with him, it sounds like you've worked on a couple of books with him now.
Yeah, we have 2, and we're currently going back to Angriest Warrior and actually doing, like, a small run of an arc,
Okay.
so continuous series.
And you just finished up a Kickstarter here recently, right?
Yeah, it actually I think it has, like, 9 days
Oh,
left.
nice.
Yeah, and we're 100% funded, and I'm
Dude.
really appreciative of everybody who's checked it out, and we're still doing that final push, but, like, I couldn't be happier with how things are going right now.
Okay,
So,
so the first book you worked on was with the Angriest Warrior stuff
yes.
with Erwin, and then also with Erwin on your second book was that Vile?
Yes, that was Vile, which was
Okay.
a much more ambitious, like, project compared to that first Angriest Warrior story.
And now tell me about this Kickstarter, at least what you're willing to share about it, because I know we got to keep the intrigue, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've had this story kind of, rushing through my mind the last couple of years, and it really kind of peaked when my wife became pregnant. And the fears that came along with like a child coming into this world and consequences of actions, there was just a lot of things coming at me at once. And I was super into like Vikings at this point, and I'm sure you do this too, James, but I had these weird fixations at random moments. And at that time, I was really into like Vikings and, Saxons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I ended up writing like a ghost story that fits into this Viking theme and
Oh,
like
very
world.
cool.
And at its core, it's about this blacksmith who is trying to live a simple life, and he's confronted by this warlord that's tracked him down and taken his wife hostage, who's pregnant, and basically tells him, because of something you've done in your past, I've come here to kill you, but now I'm giving you a chance. I need you to forge me something you think is fit for a king. And the timetable for him to deliver this object to him is the birthing of his child.
Oh, wow. That's some heavy stuff, dude. I can tell you were in a very contemplative state when you came up with that idea for sure.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
that's a very unique idea though.
Yeah, like the artist, his name's Eric Rivera. I'm really fortunate to meet him because originally there was another artist that I was talking to about working on the project, but unfortunately it never got off the ground. And it got to the point where I was like, man, I might not be able to tell this story for a while until I meet somebody right. And I happened to be at my local comic book shop, Pulp Fiction, out in Long Beach, and they hold these events once a month where it's basically like a mixer where people kind of just hang out, have a few beers, and like a lot of the artists and friends in that community all just come and hang out on a
Oh,
Wednesday night.
that sounds fun, man. I remember my
Yeah,
my old
it's
comic book shop would do similar like little events and get-togethers and things.
it's super cool. Like the community that is formed from comics is like something super special to me, and it's definitely like it's uplifting. I've met a lot of really cool people out of just being into comic books,
Yeah.
and fortunately, Eric was at this event when I was there, and he was originally there to meet Erwin, and he was sharing. He made this like ashcan comic book, and I saw the art in the inside, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is, like, amazing. This is phenomenal stuff." And I ended up, getting his contact information, and it was funny enough, he had just worked with somebody on a comic book, and it did not, like, work out well
Oh,
between the both of
okay.
them. So he was very hesitant at that point to, like, work with somebody else, and I was super understanding, and I basically said, "Let me just send you the script and just call me and then we can just talk." And he read the script, he called me back and he said he really liked it. And he voiced his grievances about the previous relationship he had with the writer that he'd worked for before.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure that those things never came up again with him. And we've been able to work really well together and we've become really good friends out of it too,
Oh,
which has
that's
been really
awesome.
nice.
Well, then that's good he shared that with you, right? Because it allowed you to make sure that you were going to present things to him in a manner that was going to help him do his best work. And I think that writer artist relationship is incredibly important. And the fact that you were able to like actually meet up with him in person and meet him that way, like a lot of artist writer teams don't have the benefit. A lot of them don't even ever meet. Just
Yeah.
getting emailed the script and working on the pages, and here you go. And it works for some people, but I think that
Mhm.
having that little extra level of connection and camaraderie is always helpful when you're in something together.
Yeah, definitely. And like I feel people they're more emotionally invested because it's like we're friends, we're having fun,
Yeah.
you know,
It's truly a collaboration.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like, and it comes across in the stories and in the art. You can tell it's like a TV show or a movie where you can tell the cast actually likes each other and they
Yeah.
enjoy the project they're working on. Like I always comment on that with like Peacemaker or a lot of the things that James Gunn does. He always casts his friends in some kind of role. He always works with the same crew he's always worked with and all of that. And I feel like there's just something that comes across in the final product when something is made that way as opposed to other methods, the more traditional methods.
Definitely. I've been very fortunate where, when that first Angriest Warrior, when I was trying to describe the scene, Erwin would be like, I'm not 100% sure what you mean. I would just drive to his house and I would be like acting out what I'm talking about. And he'd be laughing. He'd be like, okay, cool. I get you. I get
I
you. I get what
love
you're
it.
saying. Yeah.
So you've
So
had the benefit of so far two like very collaborative artist writer combinations so far.
yeah, I'm hoping my whole career is just making friends and just making really cool stuff with
Yeah.
them. So
Well, and I think if that's your goal and if that's what brings you joy and that's your focus, you'll continue to do that, right? Because you do understand the importance of it and you're going to be you and the artists are going to be happier working that way, I think. I think when people get like with the bigger companies and things, like a lot of that connection is lost, especially nowadays because everything is remote. Like in the old days, they would be working in a studio environment with each other and getting to see each other and have that collaborative spark. But nowadays, that pretty much doesn't exist. Like half the time, the artist has never even met the writer in person, or the colorist hasn't met the inker and so on
yeah,
and so on, right? So this is cool, and I think it highlights the importance of this community like you were talking about. And I see a lot of people online who just don't like they want to make comics and everything, but they don't know how to start. And I think a big part of it is finding people who are into it as much as you and are also creative minded that you kind of connect with, you vibe with a little bit, right?
100%.
Do you ever get to go to cons at all? Have you made it to some comic cons?
So I haven't gotten to do any Comic Cons like boothing.
Okay.
I I've been to Designer Con and WonderCon out here in Anaheim, and uh, Erwin usually booths, so I see my comics there, and like it's really fun to see the stuff that I've worked on
Oh yeah.
there. I did Whittier Con a couple of months ago, and I knew it was a very small con, and I chose that on purpose because it was my very first one. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a table. I went in there with the expectation of selling nothing. It
Yeah.
was literally just me hanging out. I printed out promos for the upcoming Angriest Warrior comic that I was giving away for free. It was literally just I wanted to be with my friends. I wanted to meet new people and I wanted to just give stuff away. I just wanted people I wanted to be like, "Yeah, cool, you have something I made. It's in your hands right now." So,
And I'm gonna
uh,
guess that that approach yielded some good benefits.
definitely, I met a lot of really cool people.
Yeah.
I'd given my promo stuff. Like, we have this little promo PDF of the new Anchor's Warrior that we printed out. And at first people were like, oh, thanks. And then 30, 40 minutes later, they'd loop back and be like, I
Oh,
just looked at it. Dude, that looks crazy. And it's
that's
very
awesome.
cool seeing that energy shift from like, oh, I don't really know who you are. Like, thanks. And then them coming back and being like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
I'm hyped for this. This is gonna be sick. So I I don't know, like comic books has been a huge, like, stress reliever in my life, beside my normal 9 to 5 and the stresses of, like, being an adult and having a family and making sure everything's covered. Comics is supposed to be something that, like, I heavily enjoy.
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate where I don't go into this with the mindset of like, I need to make money. And I've met people who come into comics who think that they're going to make a lot of money. And, I'm not here to prevent them from trying to do that, but I probably would have given up a long time ago if I was in this to make money because I definitely am
Yeah.
not making money at this
But
is
yeah.
yeah,
And it's the same way like with jujitsu. It's like, man, jujitsu as a livelihood is not what I would have selected if I was doing it for the purpose of making money. I ended up doing it because it's something I love, and I love helping people and serving the community and seeing, people's lives be positively impacted through the training. And I think as a result of that approach, you end up eventually at the point where you are making a decent living. And I don't think it's a coincidence that doing it out of that passion and love for it eventually yields that result. So I think people that come in with that approach right out the gate, like I'm doing this to make money, it's like, no, you got to have the love for it, and you got to love it enough that you'd be willing to do it for free. Because I don't
yeah,
know about you, when I first started teaching jujitsu, I was teaching jujitsu for free for quite a while, and you were probably writing for free, right?
yeah. Even to this day, my main priorities are the artist is getting paid, and I hope to God I at least make my money back. If I break even, then that is a massive success
Yeah,
in my eyes. So, yeah.
but you're keeping it fun. You still have the love for it. You're not a jaded, 20-year professional or anything at this point. I'm catching you fresh out the gate. Well, he
Yeah,
still has a
we'll have
lot of
we'll have to do a recap,
he's
yeah.
got a lot of life in him. You get you back on here in 10 years and see. No, it's funny because it is an industry that can kind of, chew people up and spit them out too, like
Yeah,
depending on what you're doing. But keeping it fun, and I think building those relationships is such a big part of anything that we do. Um, and it sounds like you've started out with just some wonderful relationships between Erwin and you said Eric Rivera,
yeah,
and
Rivera.
then Clay, like
Yeah.
Clay. Um, so that's a pretty good start. Have you? So let me ask you this: in your attending of cons, were there any writers or artists that you look up to that you got to meet or go up and at least peruse their booths? Because
Um,
WonderCon's got a pretty good guest list usually. I I don't know about some of the smaller ones, they can be kinda hit and miss, but was there anybody you were particularly excited to see?
I haven't gotten to meet Mignola yet, which is a
Okay.
bummer because a lot of my friends have, and he's a relatively, like, local, he's not super far from where I live,
Yeah.
so I keep my fingers crossed that I'll run into him at some point.
Yeah, I think he still
Um,
lives in Oregon, doesn't he? Potentially, or
so
he might have moved down to I think he was in Oregon and then he moved down to California or
he did move down to California, and I heard a rumor recently that he's moving back because his daughter is finishing up school. So he
okay.
obviously wants to be close to family,
Yeah.
which I totally understand. But I was actually leaving promotional posters at the comic book shop that he goes to that like near the neighborhood that he like lives around and stuff like
Okay.
that. So
Nice.
um I heard he goes in there with a bag over his face so people don't recognize him, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Um but yeah.
Well, he's a legend, man.
Yeah, and
And
I don't wanna overstep with him too, it's
yeah.
one of those things where it's like, I wanna fangirl over him, but at this point, he's probably over it. I got to meet Gendy Travaninski, which I was a huge fan of Samurai Jack and
Oh, yeah.
Primal and stuff like that, and I remember I kept it really brief with him. I shook his hand, I thanked him. I told him, like, I grew up watching Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, and it's so cool that I've gotten to grow up and I still get to watch your comics and or not comics, your animations in a more adult setting like
Yeah.
Primal, So it
That's
was
too
very
cool.
cool.
Yeah. It's always cool when you can meet those people and kind of let them know the impact they've had on your life, especially if it comes from your childhood. Like, man, I would kill to meet like the voice of Optimus Prime and some of those guys. I probably had some opportunities at some of these cons, but I just don't want to stand in those like celebrity lines. So I
Yeah,
stick with the artists and the writers and things and avoid that whole deal. My buddy used to be an intern and a writer's assistant at Robot Chicken, and
nice.
so when they did a con up here, and a lot of those guys like uh, Seth Green and all those guys and some of the writers were there, and he really wanted to catch up with them, and it was like waiting and waiting and waiting, and are they going to show up, and oh sorry they already left and went to dinner, and all of this. And but he did eventually get to catch up with them, so that was cool. He
That's
hadn't seen
cool.
him in like 20 years, so I
Oh,
don't think
damn.
I don't know like fully. I know the one guy processed who he was because they've spoken since then, but Seth Green was kind of like, oh hi, like like, oh
Yeah,
okay cool, like it's like he's met so many people over the years,
yeah,
like I wouldn't be.
like,
I told my buddy beforehand, like, hey, don't be bummed if they don't remember you, because it has been a long time and those guys meet a
mhm,
lot of people.
yeah.
Yeah. So along with your writing, you mentioned sculpting. Is that something that you still maintain and you still work on from time to time, or has the focus creativity wise completely shifted to comic books?
It's completely shifted to comics. Sculpting was always really fun because I think we talked earlier about, like, I tried to get into drawing. Drawing was obviously, like, one of the most accessible forms of art as a child. I was like, "Oh, cool, like, I'll start doing this." But I found myself getting incredibly frustrated because I couldn't capture what I imagined, and sculpting when I started sculpting, even if I wasn't able to capture exactly what I imagined, and I spent hours and hours working on it, I didn't become frustrated. I was
Right.
still happy, and I realized in that moment, drawing, at least in that moment in my life, just wasn't right for me. I was too critical on myself. I was becoming frustrated, which in any creative process, like, why are you doing it if it's making you mad?
Yeah.
And, um sculpting was one of those things where it's like I could sculpt for 4 hours and then I could melt the whole thing down and I'm still just content. It was fun, just the act of doing it.
Yeah.
And, as time went on, after I did that first comic, I was immediately like, "No, like, I like writing. I want to write." So, I more often than not, after my family's gone to bed, I sit exactly where I am right now in the dark, and I'm just typing away. So
That's awesome. That leads into my next question is, when do you make the time to write, and how often are you writing? Are you outside of the projects that you're working on? Are you practicing your writing? Do you have a routine? What's that like for you?
definitely, so I try to at least dedicate probably 2 to 3 days a week where after my family kinda goes to bed, it's usually around 9 PM. I'll usually stay up until 11
Okay.
and I'll just write, and it's not really like an ending, like a never ending process. Like, I'll be at work and I'll have a cool idea and I'll, like, write it down real fast somewhere on the side.
Yeah.
And even when I'm doing things throughout the day, like, I'm thinking about what I wanna write and how I wanna write. So by the time it hits 9 PM and I sit down, it's just like full throttle. Like I almost like there's been a dam holding all this water back and it's burst. And now it's like trying to all get out.
Yeah.
So I never sit down and to go like, oh man, like
And what am
I
I
don't know
gonna
what to
write
write.
about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because I've been thinking about it all day. So
So you get into that flow state. It's just the dam has burst, and now all
yeah.
the ideas you've had throughout the day have got to get out, right? So for you, do you like to write with a pen on pad, or are you a type notes on your phone guy, or dictate notes on? What's your preferred method? Because I know
Y-
everybody's different in that. I'm surprised, like some people are still like not on that digital, just like some of us artists prefer to draw traditionally, and sometimes
mhm.
we'll use digital. I know some writers actually like to get the notepad out and actually write with a pen, but what's your preferred method on that?
I have a lot of respect for the analog writers out there, but that's for sure not me.
Yeah.
I have the handwriting of a serial killer. So
Or
I
a doctor
yeah,
on a prescription, right?
yeah. So everything is digital for me. I'm taking really gritty, dirty notes on my phone. And then when I sit down at night and I'm on my computer, luckily I have something checking my grammar and making sure my spelling is correct so I don't look
Yeah.
like a total idiot when I send out my script.
Or now you can just
And
run it through AI and have it fix everything for you as far as grammar.
yeah, I use, specifically Grammarly. I try to
Okay.
avoid anything that, like,
You don't want
changes the
anything that'll
story.
change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I
now
just want something just to run through and tell me, "Hey, you forgot to put a period here."
now with
So
AI it can do that as well. So
mhm.
it's kind of getting scary. Maybe we don't want to feed the monster and plug it
Yeah.
because it could take ideas from it too. Like
Oh, for
that's
sure.
kind of my concern. It's like, yeah, it might use it to train itself on that. And then next thing you know, it's spitting out an idea very similar to what you just created.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. So you're a
Um,
digital guy. Phone
yeah.
notes. Do you on your phone notes, are you given like a little brief like description of the idea just so you don't forget it and then using that to flesh it out later just so it sparks in your brain what that was? Or do you get fairly detailed with it?
Usually, it only takes a few words. I feel like I have a relatively good memory, so usually there's a few trigger words that will immediately kinda, like, make everything come back to me. Like, I wanted to write this story about like this evil tree hollow, and I started writing it. And in my notes, it's literally just called Lovecraftian Giving Tree.
There you
Like the
go.
kid story, and it's
Yeah.
like immediately when I see that, I know exactly what I'm talking about. So, yeah,
So that's easy for you. Yeah, you just kind of I'm the same way. I'll put the little note down and then I'm like, "Oh, I'll know what that is once I
yeah,
once I actually sit down to flesh it
it'd be
out."
fun. Yeah, it'd be fun to see someone actually go through my notes and try to decipher what the
That's
hell
the
I'm
other
talking.
benefit of it. It's like if somebody tries to go through my thumbnail drawings, they'll have no clue, but only I need to know
Yeah.
what it means, right? I didn't get to ask you yet, and is something I meant to ask you earlier. Who are some writers, like big name writers in comics that you have a lot of respect for and inspire you?
Well, like, a lot of the stuff I do like, it's usually the artist and the writer. So
Yeah.
it's not like I've never gone out of my way to be like, "Oh, no, like, I only wanna find good writers." I'm just looking for good stories.
Yeah.
So, um,
So you
you know
understand the importance of that piece.
yeah,
If the writing is great and the art's horrible, it's not going to resonate in the same way as a strong creative team.
100%. Like, I think, unfortunately, with comics, you can have an amazing artist and a very kinda subpar story, and it still will be relatively successful because comics as a medium is heavily illustrated and people are there to look at the art.
Yeah.
But I don't think it really works the other way. I feel like you could have a really good story, but if the art is just unbearable, then it's going to be hard to keep people engaged. I don't think it's necessarily impossible, but it's hard for me to think of a few examples right now where the art is just atrocious, but yet I'm still like, I need to read this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of a ton of instances, and if I could, I wouldn't name them because they might be on the podcast one day. But no, no, I would call it out if I could actually think of some. I would say the only time like I've been bugged in any regard, like deeply bothered, was more in a sense of like when you have a creative team on a run, and then the artist suddenly changes to a new
oh yeah,
artist and they
that's a bummer.
don't it's not that the style change takes me out of it, though that's happened before too in the past, but more like if they're not drawing the like you don't know who the characters are anymore. They're drawing them so differently than the previous artist. It's like, is that supposed to be so and so? Oh wait, what
Yeah,
who is that's taken me out of it a few times in the past, but no, I think that that definitely is one of those things that it's important to have that solid duo. And
yeah,
I think that's something that you're already achieving like right away. I mean, Erwin and Eric, like they're phenomenal from what I've seen.
yeah. It's been a blessing for sure. I definitely think it's funny, like my debut comic with Erwin Papa, like I've met people that would absolutely kill to get a chance to like work with him on a
Yeah.
project. And it was a happenstance just because we happened to be friends prior to the project even like becoming like a reality. So
Now,
definitely.
with Eric, are you doing the same method where you're giving him thumbnails? Is that how you're kind of working together?
Yeah, so I do layouts, and I usually ask like, "Do you want me to do thumbnails, or do you just want me to be very descriptive about the panels?" I can do stick figures, I can do very basic thumbnailing, but for the most part, usually the panels are enough. If they can see what page one is supposed to look like, oh, it's 7 panels, and they can see how I did the layout. They can see, oh, he made this panel larger than the rest. Clearly, this scene is supposed to be more important than
Yeah.
these other scenes and stuff like that. I think that's a good example. Like,
Yeah,
so
hold
I
it
I
up
have
if you
this.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the notebook that I use, and basically,
Oh, there you go.
I'll just
Yep.
go through and I'll just do page 1, page 2, page 3,
That's
and
very
I'll
helpful,
just
man.
yeah. And I'm very vocal when I give these layouts to whatever artist I talk to. Do whatever you want. I'm very open to change. Uh,
Okay.
the layout is just to allow me to understand the pacing of that page. Is there
Yeah.
enough room to fit everything that I want on that page? I need to double check. And more often than not, the artist will do a mixture of they'll keep some of the panels, but then they'll change some of the stuff to make it more dynamic or more interesting. And that's where it becomes more of a collaborative experience. And that's what gets me really excited because every time I get a page back from them, it's like almost like getting a present from Christmas Day.
Oh,
Cause
yeah.
it's like, oh shit, this is so much better than what
Yeah.
I did. And it gets really exciting because it's like, you know,
Well, that leads perfectly into my next question for you because I always like to ask writers if there have been instances in you're early in your career, so I'm assuming it's going to be more in the positive respect than the negative. But have there been instances where how you saw something you wrote, how you saw it in your mind, and then what the artist put down on the page was one different than how you visualized it, but it also ended up being better than how you visualized it. Have there been instances of that?
yes, I would say the comic that is currently on Kickstarter, Eternal Rain. The artist that I originally hit up had more of like a whimsical, like almost like a Miyazaki style, kind of like
Okay.
very thin lines with a lot of etchings and details. And it kind of looked more like dreamy, I guess.
Mhm.
Like, and Eric's style is very just like 80s horror comics, like very underground, like creepy and eerie magazine,
Nice. So
very
more
like
more
classic.
gritty, more
Yeah.
gritty. Yeah.
And that's not how I envisioned that comic at first. But after, like I was saying, I was talking to another artist, and unfortunately, we weren't able to work together on it. I ended up beating Eric, and I saw it, and in that moment, I was kind of like, you know what, like, yeah, I think that style would actually be better than what I envisioned. And then he
Yeah.
started doing the pages, and I knew immediately. I was like, this is how the comic was meant to look from the start. I didn't even realize it, but this is it. So
Yeah, so that was one of those instances where you actually had to see it in order to come to that realization, right?
definitely,
Like how different would it have been? Like it probably still would have been cool in that other style, but now I think you've realized, oh, it's way cooler like this. So you're probably
yeah.
pretty happy that you ended up where you're at.
100%. Working with Eric has been insanely cool, like really down to earth. Uh, his thumbnails are insane. When he started sending me stuff, because Erwin at this point had been the only artist that I'd ever worked with. And Erwin is very loose and very wild with what he does. And he
Right.
knows I'm very just like accepting of like whatever. So he would just like throw stuff on the page. There would be like no thumbnailing. It would just be like, oh, I'm gonna do the page now. And with uh Eric, it was a lot more methodical. Like he was pulling up reference photos, he was thumbnailing everything, and he was like, "Do you like these thumbnails?" And
Gotcha.
something he did that I would have never have done, but I think it benefits the story heavily is he got rid of a lot of the panel borders, and a lot of the scenes are being split up by like smoke or wood cabinets. Like he's using
Oh,
the
cool.
panels to basically separate other stuff from
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, he's using stuff within the environment to frame the essentially make panels without making panels, right? That's always
Y-
cool. Yeah, that's something that McFarlane used to do a lot. I always
and that
really
makes
dug
sense because
that.
he is a big fan of Spawn, McFarlane. He loves
Me too.
those style.
And
Yeah.
I wore my
So
Spidey with the wizard hat because your deal says that you're a full-time wizard. So
yeah.
I mean, look, part-time writer, full-time wizard. So I'm like, I gotta wear my one with the. Actually, I came in here to start, and then I ran back out and put this one on. I'm like, oh, wizard, gotta
Nice.
have the wizard hat. All for you, buddy. All for you.
Appreciate it.
So as we start to wind our way down here, are there other things in the works that you already? Is there a story that you're eager to tell? Do you have an idea for the next Kickstarter or the next project you're going to be working on?
So obviously, working on comics isn't cheap. It's expensive to pay an artist what they deserve to be paid. And, I've been lucky enough where I've worked with artists who are passionate about the project and they're willing to make a deal. And, I'm able to pay them back later on, or they get the majority of the sales of the comic or something just to make sure that their bases are covered. Um, I've decided I wanna make a lot more comics, but obviously I don't wanna spend the money of making these, like, full length, like, 48-page comics, which I have been doing this whole time.
Yeah.
I wanna pivot to shorter comics. I wanna do
Okay.
more anthology style, 12-page specifically, 12 pages is what I've been trying to hit, and to me, like, and I could be completely wrong because the reality is I'm not, like, a traditionally trained writer. I feel like if I can tell a story that is emotionally impactful in 12 pages, then that's an extremely difficult task.
Yeah.
I have in 12 pages I've made you invested in this story, and the ending is either giving you some form of closure or it's upset you enough where you're like, fuck, like I need more.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way I want to pivot. And so the last three, maybe four stories I've written are 12-page short stories.
Okay. And are any artists attached to those at the moment?
Yeah, so Alec Morgan is doing a story called Devour for me right now. Alec Morgan, I think it was 2015, 2016. He worked on Daredevil and he did a trade, or I think it was a trade for Bullseye.
Oh, very
Um
cool.
and I met him through a really good friend of mine, Kevin Castanero, who you should definitely have on the show. He's an
I'll reach
amazing
out.
artist.
Yep, I'll
Yeah.
reach out
Uh,
for sure.
and Kevin has done a lot of really successful indie stuff. He has released a lot of stuff through Mad Cave. Um,
Okay. Yeah, Clay just submitted his entry for the Mad Cave
yeah,
contest. Yeah. Now you heard it here first, folks, or maybe I mentioned on another one, but Clay's actually writing something that I'm going to draw here soon. Yeah, now
that's
that he
yeah,
got that done, he's like, "All right, how many pages are we doing? What do you want to do?" So we're going back and forth now.
that's super cool.
Yeah.
Um, so he has a series.
I derailed
Or
your
no,
train of thought though, buddy.
no,
I'm
you're
sorry.
good. No,
So
you're good.
so
Uh,
so this artist that you're working with on this next project.
yeah. So Alec Morgan is doing a short story called Devour. And Kevin, we've been, talking to each other a while online. I haven't fortunately gotten to meet him yet, but I do plan at some point to drive up and get a chance to hang out. We seem to have connected like really well,
Nice.
and we have a deep love for Conan. So we both talked about maybe doing a fan made like Conan 12-page story. And overall, the main reason I reached out to him and we started, talking was because I wanted to do like a Mad Max, like wacky races kind of
Okay.
style comic called Metal Casket. And
Yeah.
that's going to be the bigger project that comes out of Kevin. But yeah,
So
like there's stuff moving right now for sure.
yeah, I'm sensing you have no shortage of ideas and things that you're working on right now. Can you see this going to a bigger place for you eventually? Is that the goal, or are you just happy to kind of keep things where they're at right now?
I'm I would love to be able to make a living off of this. I would love this to be my primary source of income, but it doesn't need to be. As long as I can keep producing things and it isn't like, suffocating me financially or something, I'm cool with just making good stories and then hopefully people are enjoying them. That's totally fine
Yeah.
with me. So, but if I get the opportunity to get a larger readership and have more people looking at my work, then yes, I would absolutely love that as well.
Yeah, you would jump at that, huh?
Oh, 100%.
It would
It's yeah,
be hard to turn down. Yeah.
definitely.
That's the dream though, right?
Yeah. I think, if you asked me a couple of years ago, you're like, "Where do you want to be a writer?" I would have been confused by that question, but,
Yeah.
the more and more I sit at this computer and the more and more worlds I get to start creating and stories I'm trying to forge, the more and more I'm like, "Damn, like this is where I wanna be." So,
Well, and you already got part of the secret formula because I heard somebody say the other day, they said most great modern comic book writers now are all failed artists. Like people that wanted to draw and now they write. I think you
nice.
listed like Robert Kirkman, Alan Moore, Brian Michael Bendis, like they all started as as artists, and then they ended up, focusing on the writing, and they do thumbnails for their people too. So you're in good company, man.
I'm glad. I didn't know I was on the right path, but now that
You're
I am,
already
it
on
gets
the
me
right
more
path.
eager. So,
Man, I've had such a great time chatting with you this evening, and we're definitely going to have to get you back on here to talk more about all these different projects because sounds like we're going to have a bunch more coming up that we need to announce once you know, finalize some things, right?
definitely, definitely. You'll be one of the first I start sending stuff out to check out for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, listen here, as we wrap up at the end, I want to throw up your socials on the screen here. I'm going to put them up here, but for the benefit of the audio listeners, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you on Instagram?
Yeah, definitely. My Instagram is just my name, Warrick Walker. You'll probably see Warlock pop up. That's a nickname I have had since I was in middle school.
Hence the
So
wizard part.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
And then you also have a Patreon that you said is free.
Yeah. Unfortunately, some people pay. I've told them they don't need to, but
Okay.
the idea is, the Patreon is almost like a mailing list. You can follow along. I can give updates about upcoming stuff. I really didn't want it to be a space where I charged because I don't really feel like I can really justify posting enough content
Right.
worth paying for. But if you want to keep an eye on the things I'm doing, Patreon is going to be one of the best ways to get updated about it.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, thank you for spending this time with me today. I want to encourage everybody to go out, check your stuff out, hang out with me for a moment while I give everybody the spiel. Everybody, make sure you go check out Mr. Warrick Walker, keep up with him on Instagram, support him on Patreon. I would say pay him. He says, keep it free, but this guy's out here doing good work, building community, working with some great artists. Pay him a little bit so he can keep paying these artists well. And in the meantime, everybody, you know where the podcast is. You're watching or listening. If you want to give a like, subscribe, do a little review, it is all greatly appreciated. And I also have a Patreon without a free option that you guys can support if you would like, get extra content, stickers, all sorts of goodies depending on what tier you're on. In the meantime, everybody, keep it nerdy.